22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
And are not afraid to say it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are tuned into Black Westchester Presents, the People Before Politics radio show, episode 344. I am your host, AJ Woodson. My partner, Damon K Jones, will be joining us somewhere along the line in the show. We have a full show for you. Before I get into the show, I just want to say a couple of things. If you have not voted yet, today was the last day of early voting. Tuesday is the primary vote. If you are registered, you need to get up, get out, and vote. You need to vote like your life depends on it, because it possibly may. We are in the middle of fighting for our democracy and control of the House and the Senate. So we have a lot of congressional. In New York, we got the congressional race. In other states, they have the other races. But if you are registered, you need to get up, get out, and vote. Black Westchester has put out our endorsement of Congressman Jamal Bowman. We are standing behind him for re-election. He has been bold and unapologetic. There's a lot of us activists, a lot of us advocates. We complain that our elected officials do not speak up, do not speak truth to power. We have that in Jamal Bowman. And let me tell you, if we want to continue to have that, we need to go out and vote for him. If we do not, we may not have another African-American male that is as unapologetic and is bold and speaks up for all of our interests. So this is what you said. This is what we fight for. Let's get up, get out, and vote. Shout to Michelle Brown. She said Jamal Bowman is the truth. So without further ado, like I said, Damon will be joining us sometime later. I would like to introduce our special co-host for today, Olivia. Olivia has been interning with us this summer, has been doing an amazing job. She's done some incredible articles. She even did some little graphic promotions for my book. She came with me yesterday to the Greenberg Library, which is the second stop on my library tour. I had an author talk. She welcomed the crowd, introduced me, did an excellent job, warmed the crowd up for me. I just had to get up there and speak. So I without further ado, let me give a shout out. Welcome Olivia to the show.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be a part of the show tonight. As Mr. AJ said, I have been interning for this past summer, and it's been a really great experience just for me to really get into my community, learn more about the politics, learn more about different people in Mount Vernon, in Westchester, and be able to write about it as well. I currently go to Quinnipiac University, which is in Connecticut, and I'm majoring in journalism. And this upcoming year will be my senior year, so I'll be graduating. And so a part of my school requirement is to do an internship. So I was really blessed and really lucky to secure one with Mr. AJ in Black Westchester. And it's really been a great experience for me to just practice journalism, practice my writing skills, and get better at interviewing people as well as just connecting with other individuals. So it's been a great experience, and I'm really grateful for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, what would you say, if any, was the most challenging thing? Was this your first internship, or?
Yes, so this was my first internship. So I think maybe one of the more challenging things was just making sure I get out of my comfort zone. As a journalist, you will have to talk to people you've never met in your life. You will have to introduce yourself when you go to events and do more public speaking. So that was definitely something that I got better at through this internship, and something that is definitely going to help me in the years to come.
All right, you got a shout out from Daisy. Says,
that's my best
friend. She's watching. Yes. They had me fill out a form at the end, of your performance, and of course it was all outstanding. And at the end, they were like, "Was there any other comments that I had, or anything else that I had to say?" And I said, yes, I had one disappointment. The disappointment was that the internship was ending.
Aww.
Only disappointment. So I mean, you definitely lightened my load. You covered some stuff that I didn't have to be at. It's definitely that you are our first intern too.
Yes.
We've had some other people come in and they've wrote for us temporarily, and then they went on to do other things. But you are our official first intern. It was very successful. And I'm putting it out there. Yes, Black Westchester is looking for interns all the time. So if if your school has an internship for journalism, please reach out to us, blackwestchester@gmail.com. And I want to tell everybody a little bit about you. This is your introduction to everybody.
Sure. So my name is Olivia, or most people call me Liv. I grew up in the Bronx, and now I grow up in Mount Vernon, New York too. Outside of journalism, outside of school, I was a big musical theater person. I sing, I like to act. That was my thing in high school. I was also gospel choir president back in high school. So that's also a big part of who I am and what makes me who I am. Another thing about myself is that my mom is Mexican and my dad is Black. So those are two strong identities that I also take in serious importance, and I carry them with me wherever I go. And so just being able to be representation, especially in the field of journalism, where not a lot of women of color yet, we're still trying to get more people that look like us in the newsroom. So I'm definitely trying my best to stay active, be engaged, and continue to work on what I want to do. So that's also something that I love. I have a dog, Rocky. That's my little baby. So I'm a dog mom. And yeah, I mean, that's a little bit about me. And
How old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
Okay. That's great. Now, I first met you, and I didn't know it was you when you contacted me. So a while back, very good friend of the show, Brenda L. Crump, her longtime husband had passed, and I was with her all day for the funeral and everything, and to just be there to stand with her, and I heard this lovely voice sing at the funeral. And when and sang, not sang, and it was funny because then when you contacted me about the internship, which I guess Brenda is your next door neighbor, and gave you our information. When I told her, yeah, we definitely going to do it, and she was like, "You met her before," and she told me that you were the one that sang at the funeral, and I was like, I didn't even know that you were the same person. But yes,
yeah, that's me.
So she has a voice, y'all. She can sing. She sang at the funeral and did her thing. And she's definitely been a welcome to the team. And hopefully she will, whenever she has free time, and come back in the summers, and hopefully, continue to be associated with Black Westchester, we would greatly appreciate that.
Yes, definitely. Like I said, I'm more than willing to come back after graduation, do what I need to do, continue writing, continue meeting more community members. And that's what I'm about. Yeah.
And it's fun. And I wanted everyone to see you. You got a lot of accolades for your stories, a lot of praise for your stories. But I've always said, like, we want to help encourage the next generation of truth speakers, in whatever form that looks like, whether it's activists or journalists or whatever. And anybody who has an interest like that, we definitely want to pour whatever little bit that we know into them and give them a start. And hopefully, that will take, go far in taking them to where they're trying to get to. So I wish you the best. I know your future is nothing but bright, and I am glad to know you. And when you become big and I see you on somebody's news every day, I'll be like, yo, I knew her when she first.
Yep. And I'm gonna make sure to shout out Black Westchester till I die.
Yeah. And then you came with me yesterday, and then I didn't know what the format was going to be. And then, I was just going to be there. She's like, oh, I'll introduce you. And you got up there and did the whole welcoming the crowd.
Yes.
And, like you comfortable around the mic. You like, this wasn't, like, you wasn't shy. You was like you've been doing this forever. Like, this is what you do. Like, I was like, uh-oh. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that event was great. Everyone who was watching, we were there at Greenberg Library. We had a good turnout. About like 30 people came. And Mr. AJ talked about his book. He read a passage from it as well. And then we had some questions at the end, and people were asking really great questions about, where the future of Black Westchester is going and how we can continue to become involved within news and within journalism, as well as just being active community members and making sure that we talk about issues that are affecting us. If there's something that we're not happy with, how do we make the next steps to getting that fixed? If there's something that we see that's like, hey, I don't think that's cool. How do we talk to people about bringing awareness about something and making that change that we want to see? So it was definitely a really refreshing conversation, and just seeing everybody there so engaged was also really awesome.
So you're going to school for journalism. What is where do you see yourself? What would you like to do?
So the goal is to definitely do broadcast journalism and be in the newsroom, do television, be a reporter live on the scene. I have had some practice at my school. A little shout out to Q30, which is at Quinnipiac. It's our news and entertainment television show. So there I've been able to get some more experience as well, see what it's like to read from a teleprompter, see what it's like to get mic'd up and have someone in your ear like, all right, Liv, there you go, you're up next. So that's definitely been a really great experience for me as well. And just being able to tap into different types of media, because we have a variety. Like I said, we have news, we have something that's more like Hollywood entertainment. So it's really cool to just see where I fit in and where I would like to go. And yeah, it's been great. That's the future plan.
One of the important things for me, I gave you very little direction, and I wanted to feature your voice. I didn't want to encourage your voice. I didn't want to change your voice or influence your voice. We have to, like, I just turned 56. Damon just turned 54. We are no longer officially the youth, even though we are young-minded, and we still think we're young-minded. But, we need the youth. We need that voice from the youth. So I thought it was important to just let you go. And, if you had questions, to answer your questions, and anything you asked as far as guidance, and just let you go. And you handled it well. And for anybody else who's doing internships or anybody else who's trying to get into this game, one of the things that most impressed me, you kept the line of communication open always. I did the interview. I was at the place, or I got a follow-up interview with this person on this day. I'm gonna have it to you on this day. Then you was like, okay, I'm good. It'll be there. You kept that's very important. And going in, and I freelance for a lot of publications like The Source and The Village Voice and so many other publications, and communication with the editor who assigns the story is very, is very, and you ask the right questions. What was I looking for? And you can't. Some of this you can't teach. Some of this, you know what I'm saying? Some of this you just have to have in you, and I can help mold what you have and take it there. But there's some of that discipline that you had, that sometimes you can't teach that, and that was very necessary. And I see you going far in your endeavors, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I always try my best to just make sure I keep, my supervisors, intern supervisors in the loop because, like you said, it's important to keep that line of communication. And that's with any job or any field. If you know, maybe, hey, I'm behind on this, it's better to be transparent rather than like, oh, I just didn't get it done. Sorry, that type of thing. So I've always just kept, tabs on everything and making sure I'm updating as well as I can. Yeah.
Now, do you have a particular thing you want to do? Politics, entertainment, celebrities, public interest stories. What do you have a certain?
So I think I really want to just maybe start out with like hard news and go from there. But I would love to end up doing more of like lighter news, maybe do some profile pieces, do human interest stories or like oddity stories, stuff that you don't normally read about. That's like, hey, maybe this random person found $1 million. Let's see what how that happened. So I definitely like the lighter side of news as well, but I'm not limiting myself. I'm definitely new, so obviously trying my best to just see where I fit in and where opportunities open up for me. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's great. And as I was saying yesterday, we created this to tell our own stories on our own terms. And, I am the main writer as the editor in chief, but, you know, it was never meant to be all written in my voice. You know what I'm saying? We've had a lot of writers come through. They might have come through, just for a minute and go off and do what they're going to do and springboard to something else. And that's fine. Like, that's why we created this forum. And hopefully, more people will come. We encourage the community to write letters to the editor, to speak. Like, they call us the voice of the voiceless.
Mm-hmm.
While that's good, we never started this to be the voice of the voiceless. We wanted to give the voiceless their own voice.
Right, exactly.
A platform where they could feel like they could speak and they could be heard, and we could highlight their issues. So hopefully we're doing that. We've done some of that, and this is our 8-year anniversary. Definitely, you've been definitely a welcome addition. And like I said, it's an open door policy. Anytime you just feel like, even if you're in school and you just got something that you just want to write about the community, or you're home for the holidays or something, you are always welcome to
Thank you.
Here. Yes. So I sometimes when I'm interviewing judges, people running for judge and some elected officials, and they're all stiff and stuff, I ask them a couple of funny questions that have nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to do that with you too.
Okay.
So if you were a superhero, who would you be and why?
Oh, that's kind of tough because I don't really watch superhero movies like that. That's kind of like not my thing. But people are like, Liv, you got to get on this Marvel. There's all this stuff. So I know I'm going to do my homework, y'all. I'm going to do my homework. But let me think. If I had to be a superhero, maybe I think Wonder Woman.
Okay.
She's strong. She's powerful. She's fierce. She gets the job done.
And a lot of people don't know she's Latina too.
She's is. She
like people didn't know.
The original.
Even no, but I mean the character has Latino roots, but that people don't know. And then the original Linda Carter, they didn't know that the original actress was Latina.
She was.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I would say Wonder Woman. That would be my final answer.
If your house was on fire and you could only grab 3 things, what would they be?
My dog.
Okay.
My like important documents, like passport stuff. Like I have that all squared away in a little box. So grab that because Lord knows it's hard to replace those things.
Right.
And then probably, the last thing I would grab. What's something that I know I can't replace? Maybe my jewelry. My jewelry is actually really sentimental, and I got a lot of pieces from like my godmother who passed and my grandparents. So definitely that would be something I would want to take too, because that's not something you can replace. Like the MacBook. Well, I'll be sad, but that's the MacBook. But there's certain pieces of jewelry that I would definitely want to take with me too. So yeah, my dog, my jewelry, and my passports and information.
See, I watch too much NCIS. They all have a go bag. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
the go bags.
my laptop bag is my go bag. Like
Yep.
I just all I have to do is put the laptop in it and go. Like
And go.
everything, like chargers, extra chargers, everything is
All
in there.
in there.
Yeah, everything I need.
You never know. You got to drop at a moment's notice.
Yeah, so I have a go bag. So yeah. Now, is there anything I didn't ask you that you want people to know about you?
I think I just want to tell everyone thank you for the support. Thank you for letting me report on events, and it was really great getting to meet different people, like at the youth events that I went to as well. So I'm always willing to look for new opportunities as well. I'm always willing to connect. And it's been a great experience. So I just want to thank everyone that I met for allowing me to interview them, allowing me to feature them in my stories, and making my dream kind of come true, being able to write. So thank you for that.
Now, one of the last pieces you did, well, the second to last piece you did was the opening of Congressman Bowman's campaign office in Mount Vernon.
Yes.
What is your take from your interview and meeting of the congressman?
It was a really great interview. I definitely liked his energy. I thought it was a great way to kind of, bring the community in, welcome everybody. And he had music playing, he had food. So it was definitely not a typical political event, I would say, because normally I feel like those things are more formal. But I like that he was able to just be himself and come in and really just make announcements, talk to people. And he was immersed in all the different conversations. So I thought it was a great kickoff event, and it was a great experience being able to interview him as well.
So I did end up going to New Rochelle to the event.
How did it go?
It was pretty good. It was a soul food place.
Uh-huh.
I know the owner, and it was, they have a little thing in the back, and it was a great thing. It had a DJ and everything. So I brought books, and I sold all the books I brought. So,
woo! Go buy the book, y'all.
Right. I announced that I had the book. So yeah, it's a little self-promotion. The book, Black Westchester, The Origin Story, is on Amazon. And if you want an autographed copy, you can get it directly from me. Hit me on any form of social media or email me at Mr. Mr. AJ Woodson. Oh, you'll see by my name. Just put @gmail.com after that. And definitely support the book. Now, speaking about authors, so I was doing the author talk in Greenberg, and a sister came up to us and introduced herself and shared her book that she wrote. And I asked her, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And she was like, "What?" I was like, "How would you like to come on the show tomorrow and talk about it?" Her name is Tracy Humphrey. She has a great book called A Conversation Between the Brothers. And I haven't had a real chance to really go through it, but what I've seen, I like. She resides in Westchester County with her loving husband, the Honorable Judge Wayne A. Humphrey, and her sons, Grayson and Tony. And she's always dreamed of becoming a published author, and she did it thanks to God. And we're going to bring her on now to talk about her book. Welcome, Tracy, to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes. So now, you said, don't forget about me. Don't forget about me. I called you to make sure that you was coming on the show. So
you did.
Yeah. So I'm going to read a little piece that I seen here in the foreword. So in a conversation between brothers, Tracy Humphrey writes the story of the African-American males who were killed by racist white cops. She describes how they are then welcomed into the university heaven by the master, the creator, who welcomes them back home with open arms, but also recognize that they are returning home all too soon. As author, Humphrey has chosen a poetic way of handling a very sensitive topic, the tragic demise of 6 African-American males who were killed by white racist cops Her style of writing weaves through narratives and rhyme, a unique way of telling their stories that are very different from those reported by the media at the times of the killings. These brothers, as she refers to them, were killed because they were black. And I thought, when I read that, I was moved, and you telling the story because this is what Black Westchester does, and the killing of Kenneth Chamberlain and all the, all the African Americans that have been killed, talking to their families and how it's affected their families, and the narrative is different. And even when Mike Ferguson died, and Mike Brown died in Ferguson, I wrote an article online, and somebody from Ferguson saw it, and she called into our show. We were in the studio at the time, and she was like, "Yo, I like the way y'all been reporting it. Can I tell you what's going on from the ground level, not with the media's?" And for 3 weeks, she was reporting from the street what was really going on in Ferguson. And I was like, "Yo, that touched all of that." So you have an interesting way of dealing with that. Tell us more about your book.
Well, it's actually, I have a description of the book that I could read, and then after I read it, I could sort of ad lib and take any questions to explain it better.
Right.
Because there is a lot in the book, and to pull out one thing would not be fair to the men who have been murdered. Mm-hmm. So I'll read the description, and then I will take it from there. Okay, so in this first book in a series, written entirely in rhyming lyrics, A Conversation Between the Brothers depicts the stories of African American men senselessly murdered by racist cops and racist individuals in general. Based on true events, this work of nonfiction brings the murdered brothers together in heaven, the university, with the creator, the master, who closely resembles them in more ways than one. One by one, the master has the unfortunate experience and responsibility of welcoming his sons back home, albeit too soon. It wasn't his plan. As they tell their true and untold stories, the brothers vent about their own memories of how they were murdered on Earth. While in the university, the brothers get to know each other through their self-created hip-hop lyrics, as well as their favorite artists, such as Jacqueline Carr, Michael Jackson, and the great Spike Lee. This first book brings to life the stories of Ahmaud Arbery, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, Michael Brown Jr., Eric Garner, and George Floyd. The end of the book finds the master returning to Earth to bring back home a very prominent African-American man who had substantial experience living in a time when if you were white, you were right, and if you were black, you were expected to stand back. His jobs will be to educate the brothers about how life on Earth was for him, and perhaps why it was the way it was for them. The brothers anxiously await his arrival and wonder, who could he be?
Oh, that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah, that's
what I love. What you might not know, I'm a hip hop head. I started out as an artist. I wrote for entertainment magazines. Like, no matter what else I do, I'm always going to be a hip hop head all my life.
Okay.
It's in my bones. So the fact that you are using hip hop and rhymes and all of that in the thing, that's just very appealing to me. You know what I'm saying? I love that, like that creativity. Why did you choose to do it that way?
I love poetry to begin with, and I also wanted to draw men and women who understood what the book was really about. I know a lot of people who were involved or witnessed the murders of Eric Garner and George Floyd. Are a lot of African American men and women who are involved in hip hop. So, and at the same time, there are people in general who don't like to read, but like hip hop. So I kind of wanted to combine them together so that it would draw their attention to reading the book. And in so doing, educate people about the real stories of how these African American men passed away or murdered.
That definitely appeals to me because as you read my book, you'll see there are hip hop lyrics there. You'll hear the hip hop in it. You'll lyrics of certain songs, certain lyrics that I'm one of them people that for every situation there's a lyric in my head for that situation. Like I hear that lyric, there's a lyric going on in my head about what's going on. So I tried to put a little bit of that in the book as well. So that's definitely a cool approach, and not enough. There's not enough of that in our writing these days. So I definitely applaud you, Olivia. You met both of us yesterday. You have any questions for Tracy?
Sure, yeah. So my question is like, how was your book received after it came out? What were your readers? Were they engaged? What was something that they might have taken away from your book?
Well, the book was just released April 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
So there are people who have read the book, but a lot of them haven't given me feedback. The ones who have given me feedback have told me that it was very educational because they knew nothing about these murders. Some people knew nothing about the people who were murdered. Ahmaud Arbery, yes, they knew about that because it was familiar. It was pretty recent. But Amadou Diallo, a lot of people don't know about Amadou Diallo. So the feedback that I've gotten so far is, yes, it's interesting because of the rhyming lyrics. That, you know, if no one has ever read a book where the entire book is in rhyming lyrics. So I've gotten that feedback. And like I said, I've also gotten the feedback that the book is very, very educational. And in fact, a few people have told me it will draw the attention of the urban community, but at the same time, it should be read by the suburban community and our Caucasians.
Yeah, and one thing you mentioned, you know, that not a lot of people know about the stories of all the men in your book. And why do you think that is?
Well, initially, I definitely think it's because they're not being taught it in school. I wasn't taught about it in school. It's not something that the school sees as important. And also, unfortunately, I think that a lot of times we as African American men and women are not even taught about those things in our own homes. So for other people to be responsible for our education, it kind of falls back on them to have not giving us what we really need, our history, not the history of, say, Christopher Columbus or, you know, but our history. So I think it's on us to start educating ourselves, because through the years we've seen that no one is going to educate us except us. So I mean, we've come a long way, but at the same time, there's a lot more work that we have to do.
You know, we got away from that because in Africa we had the griots that the griots they told the tradition of the family and everything down to the next generation, and then they when they got older they told it to the next generation, and they kept the history alive. And we got away from that somewhere in life in America. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And the one of the reasons we started Black Westchester is because the mainstream media is not telling our stories. And when they do tell it, like I was talking about Kenneth Chamberlain with a cousin of mine who goes to my church. And he was like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "You don't never heard of Kenneth Chamberlain?" He said, "Oh yeah, that was the crazy old man that came at the cops with the knife," because that's what the media said.
Right.
When I told him the story and sent him the videos, and he was like, "Wow, he never knew that. He only knew that this crazy old man came at them with a knife and the cops had to kill him." And that was the narrative that was told. But that's from the situation how it happened, and we have to tell our stories. And so this is definitely a nice creative way of doing it. This is the book here. If everybody can see it real quick. I don't know if everybody. Oops, that's the back. Everybody can see it real quick. Where is the book available? How can they get it? How do people get in touch with you? Website, social media, etc.
Okay, so the book is available anywhere online. It's available at Amazon, Walmart, Barnes and Noble, Booktopia. It's also available in store at the Barnes and Noble in Mohegan Lake. If you'd like to buy directly from me for a signed copy, you can email me. My email is Tracy Humphrey, TracyHumprey, Tracy Humphrey 01 at msn.com. Tracy Humphrey 01 at msn.com.
Any social media people want to follow you or?
Yeah, you can follow me on Facebook. On Facebook, I'm Tracy Elaine Robinson Humphrey.
Right. Okay.
Tracy Elaine Robinson Humphrey.
Right.
And if you don't mind, Mr. Woodson, I'd like to read like two excerpts for the book.
Absolutely.
Just okay. So this one is it's in honor. I can't even say it's in honor of them, but it represents George Floyd and Eric Garner, who died in very similar ways. So what I'm going to read to you is when they arrive. They arrive in heaven at the exact same time.
Okay.
They arrive at the exact same time. And the title is Racist Cops Didn't Let Us Stay. They Took Our Breath Away. The master hurriedly walked to his bedroom, and inside his walk-in closet, he now stood. He had to decide which outfit to change into. This was his custom, so he was confident he would. Although he again was not expecting his sons, he was aware that when they arrived, their lives would be new. So in a symbolic gesture, the master made sure that each of his outfits were too. Still in a hurry, he decided on a white and gold Gucci top. Rushing as he stepped into his legs into the matching pants, he wondered if the racist officers were several or just one cop. Lastly, he slipped his feet into his gold and white kicks made by Kobe Bryant from the Lakers. He knew he would now be comfortable when he greeted the racist dead makers. Who will they be this time, he wondered. Who's giving my sons an untimely return home now? Were his babies again killed by racists for nothing? If so, he wondered how. As the master glided down the very long hallway, the gold floors again glistened and shined. He knew he wouldn't have early greetings if the racist cops would just be kind. The closer he got to the gate, the master began to feel nervous. He wondered which of his children this time had been given a disservice. As was now his custom, the master approached and opened the pearly gate's window to view. His mouth opened in disbelief when he saw not one son, but two. As the brothers walked towards the gate, they moved their necks from side to side. Each had their own story to tell, but the physical pain they wanted to hide. Even far from the distance, the master saw that the young men breathed with trouble. This was not the case for just a single man, but for the double. The master sensed that this was the case, but knew they'd feel fine once they entered in. Within the university, they'd know no pain, nor they would know sin. Finally, the brothers reached the now open gate and dropped at the master's feet. They recognized him right away and knew their return would be sweet. The brothers had already been introduced to each other by their families on Earth. Unfortunately, each of them learned that to racist cops they had no worth. With pain in his heart and tears in his eyes, the master had to do what he couldn't avoid. He opened the gate to welcome his sons, Eric Garner and George Floyd. That was just their introduction of how they came to her to the university. And one other quick excerpt I like to read is I don't know if everyone remembers, but at the time when George Floyd was being murdered, he cried out for his mom several times.
Yes.
So I sort of brought that into the book.
Every black mother recognized that. Every black mother heard that cry.
Right.
Spoke about the cry of that.
Right. And to me, I took it as though that was like his last ditch effort for him to be saved. And so when I wrote the book, I thought I'd bring that into the story and into heaven with him, into the university with him. And in the end, I wanted him to be rewarded for the screams of his mama. So this one is called Screaming for Her After the Chase, But Now I See Her Face. Excitedly, George turned towards the dining room's door and could not contain his emotions. He looked at the master inquisitively, thinking he must have made some potions. His eyes now clear, he viewed the woman holding hands with the master. George stood up to slowly walk to her. But without his control, his feet on their own, they caused him to walk faster. He knew the dining room was long, but at this time it seemed to be even longer. As he pushed on with tears streaming down his face, he felt his legs getting stronger. Then in front of him, in front of the woman, George paused to be certain who she was. And then he heard the master's introduction, as he and his brothers always does, just as his hand was with Eric's when from above they were floating down. The master put George's hand into the woman's, who George noticed was wearing a beautiful crown. George, my son, the master began, I trust the introductions amongst your brothers were nice. And now I want to reintroduce you to your mama, the one you yelled for twice. So that was this is his introduction into being reunited with his mom once in the university. So, but then the story goes on to, like I said, talk about the other African American men, and it tells their story, not the story of the media, but the story that I believe they would have told had they been alive, allowed to live. So yeah, and just going back a little bit, another reason why I chose to write it in poetic form is because I love poetry, and although people may say that it's really, really hard to write that way, I think for me, yes, I believe it's a gift from God. And I also feel that had I not chose to write it this way, it would have taken me forever to finish the book. I wrote it this way. It took me 40 days to write the book because for me, words flow easier when they rhyme. So, yeah, I really hope everyone would,
Same thing with me, being a former rapper. Well, you never a former, being a rapper and, entertainer and then entertainment writer and covering a lot of hip hop. So, being a hip hop head, I love rhymes. Like,
right.
Whether it's spoken word, whatever form it is in. So, I wonder what I found interesting. You did something I've never really seen done in a book. You said beginning of writing October 23rd, 2020, completion of writing December 2nd, 2020. Like, I've never really seen somebody actually write their start date and their finish date in for their book. Why did you do that? Why did you see the need to do that?
I'm very, very hard on myself, and when I have a goal, I always strive to finish that goal as soon as I can. So I figured putting the date when I started would help me to look back on it and say, okay, it's October 23rd. Okay, you don't have long because you want to do it before October ends. And then when October ends, okay, you let October go by. Now you have November. You don't let November go by. So I did it for me as my own competition. So, I started it, and it is interesting because not intentionally, I started it on my sister's birthday and I ended it on my brother's birthday.
Wow.
So that was real, not intentionally at all. But yeah, and I wanted that as part of the book because I wanted also people to see that if I could do it in that amount of time, then they could do it in that amount of time. It may not be the same form, but everyone could get this done. So everyone has the opportunity to bring out these stories the same way as I did. It may not be in a poetic fashion, but the story could still be told, and it doesn't have to take long for it to be done.
Olivia, you got any more questions?
No, yeah, I think that was great. I think it's really inspiring to just see how your one piece can get from blank pages to finally the full completion. And I definitely resonate with that too as a journalist and as a writer, making sure that you see like, all right, you have that self-discipline to get something done and you set those little goals for yourself. And even if maybe you fall behind a little bit, it's all about picking yourself up
Right.
and getting the job done and getting it done. And when you see your final product, you're just like, wow, I did that. It's
right.
really, I'm excited so people can share it and read it as well. So thank you for sharing your wonderful book and writing. I did also want to ask you, when we talk about the deaths of our fellow brothers, it can be very hard sometimes for you to process that, for us to just constantly be in that cycle. How was your writing process? Like, did you ever at some point feel like I need to take a step away from this for a second because it may be overwhelming to just like constantly think about it? Or were you more like, no, this is something that, although it pains me, I feel like I still need to continue doing it? Like, how did you balance that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the pain motivated me to continue. I was really, really motivated when I witnessed George Floyd's murder. And I was so angry that I had to find an outlet. I just had to find an outlet. There was nothing else I could do. So I said, I have to write about this. I just have to write about this. And while I was writing, I said, it's not just him. It's a lot of other people, a lot of other brothers. And so no, I did not feel like it was too much. I felt like if I didn't give it all, then I would be doing a disservice. So I had to keep going. I couldn't stop. Their lives stopped, but I couldn't stop. So no, it did not make me prolong what I was writing. It pushed me to continue to writing. But with that being said, some people, my husband included, have told me that when they read the book, they can't read it straight. It's too overwhelming. They have to do it in sections, which is a bad thing, but it's also a good thing, because that means that the book is really resonating with them, and the stories in the book really resonating with them. But for me, no, I had to keep going because the anger was still there. The only time I said, okay, I can slow down now, is when I was at the end. That's it. Because I knew that I had done all that I could do for these 6 men.
I feel you. My next book will be The Deadly Consequences of Being Black. And it basically, actually, it was from an editorial that I had to write, because every time they had one of these situations, one of these white radio shows or something, they would have me on their show, and their audience would ask stuff like, why are they so angry? Why can't they get over it? Stuff like that. So I wrote an editorial, White People Can't Comprehend the Deadly Consequences of Being Black. So that ended up turning into a book. And and it's 90% done. And it actually was supposed to come out before George Floyd, actually. But then it was like so many things happened, and covering all these cases, and it just was hard to like concentrate on just doing that. And then the second thing I'm doing, which will be the end of next year, Westchester has his own George Floyd's, a deep dive into police brutality, corruption, and the families impacted. So you'll hear from the Chamberlain family about Kenneth Tim. You'll hear from Dan Roy Henry's family. And I've already interviewed all of them and everything. You'll hear from all those cases and how they were impacted, and you know what I'm saying? And, and all that, and, where that has, that changed their life for, what direction it changed their life in and all that. So you'll hear from the families, impacted, you know what I'm saying? And, it's okay to march for George Floyd 1,100 miles away, but we got George Floyd's here. Matter of fact, the week of George Floyd, we had a brother in New Rochelle called Kamal Flowers, got killed by the New Rochelle Police Department, like less than a week after George Floyd. But nobody knew, because everybody was talking about George Floyd. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was right here in New Rochelle. Nobody knew about it. So we carried them stories. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want people to know?
No, just that, I just hope and pray that parents today will raise their kids knowing that we do have a history, and we should take responsibility for educating our children about our history and not relying on the school system to do it, because as we could see, it won't get done.
Right. Absolutely. I applaud you. Now, you said you have an official launch coming up. When is the official launch? You have an event that...
Yes, it's official book release. It's going to be September 17th at 2:00 at the Greenberg Public Library.
Oh, right, same spot. Okay, yes. Yeah, so everybody needs to come out. Everybody needs to come out and support you. And if I can be there, I will definitely be there.
Thank you.
Yes. So what's next now? Now you got your first. Now, again, I just did my first book. You got your first book done. I know, like you probably have many books in your head, and you have probably many little half-written things laying around. You know what I'm saying? So what's next?
I do. this is definitely book 1 in the series.
Okay.
I'm going to, of course, do a book 2. But I think I'm going to wait a year before I release book 2, because I think in that amount of time, hopefully the education has been done enough for me to say, okay, you've learned about those people, now let's move on to these people. And I don't really know if I want to stay with the men or if I want to stay with the women. The time period, I don't know. So I'll have to pray on that.
Well, here's a suggestion, and a lot of people don't know. The month that Sandra Bland died, 6 African American women in the same month died in the custody of police. The last one being Raynette Turner in Mount Vernon. So it was like 6 women died that month in the hands of police around the country. So that might be a story to tell, because everybody doesn't know the story of Sandra Bland outshined all the rest of them.
Right.
So, yeah. So a lot of people don't know the story of the other 5 like that.
Right. And before I wrote the book, I actually read about Sandra Bland, and I learned that there were several other people.
Yeah, there was 6 African American women who all died in police custody. Right. So they didn't get shot down, before they were in custody, and
right
in custody one way or another. Yeah, in the same month, that month.
Right.
Yeah, that 31 days in June or whatever it was, they all died. Yeah. So I mean, that might be an interesting, if I can put it out there,
Yeah.
For the sisters.
Yeah. Right.
Any last words, Olivia, for our guests?
No, I would just say it's really great to hear about your book, to learn more about it. And I also look forward to reading it myself. I'll look to get a copy and support. But like you said, I think it's important that we continue to learn about these individuals and how their lives got taken away from them. And also, like you mentioned, teaching younger youth and the children in school, because I honestly wasn't really taught much about that growing up as well. And so I've had to kind of learn through these conversations with other people as well. So I think that we definitely need to do a better job at educating the young people when it comes to these topics, when it comes to these discussions, even if they can be a little bit difficult. It's important that we learn about it, and it's valuable for sure.
And it's not enough is not taught. I've learned more Black history. I'm a little older. I learned more Black history from KRS and Chuck D than I ever did in school. Like literally, I learned more the names and made me want to look up who these people were and what they did and is that true about this person, and do some research on them. Like I learned more from Chuck D and KRS than I did from any combined school. Like and we're not taught that. So
right. And to piggyback on that, I've been taught a lot by Mr. Madison. I don't know if you heard of Joe Madison on his radio station.
The Black Eagle.
Yeah, the Black Eagle.
That's
Black
my miss.
Eagle.
That's my miss. When we do our show, my partner's not with me yet. He's coming on later. We always say, we have to tell some people now, this ain't that kind of radio show.
Right.
This ain't that kind of show.
He teaches me. He takes me to school every morning. Every morning he takes me to school. Yes, love him.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Pick up the book. Again, the launch is say the date of the launch again?
September 17th at 2 p.m. Greenberg Public Library. And you do have to register. And the last time I checked, there were 50 seats left. So yes, please register. But what they don't tell you, if you don't register, they're still going to let you in. So, but they try to get a head count. Yeah, because they said because of COVID, they didn't want more than.
They want a head count.
Okay. All right, good to know.
Like I found out yesterday, some of our people are not registered people. Like I had maybe 20 people that registered. I have way more than 20 people there though, but it was like I think I had 20 people that registered though.
Yeah, I took a group because, like you said, a lot of us don't do the registering. So I took a group of, certain amount of people who I know won't register, and I actually just registered for them. So
right.
But it's good to know that you can still get in.
Yes, again, the book is a conversation between the brothers, and it's a great story told about African Americans that were killed by the police, and it's told in a poetic form. and they meet together in the conversation they have in heaven, which is so poetic and so, it's incredible. Everybody who's going to see this and watching this now needs to support this author, needs to go get this book, needs to show up at Greenberg and wherever else. Follow her on social media to see where she's at. And I wish you the best.
Thank you so much, Mr. Woodson. Thanks for having me. All the best, Olivia.
Thank you. Take care.
God bless.
God bless. God bless. So that was our first guest. The author, again, Tracy E. Humphrey. The book is A Conversation Between the Brothers. Very good book. Make sure that you check it out. And for y'all just tuning in, the young lady on the screen with me is my special co-host, Olivia. She was our intern for the summer, and she did an excellent job. And I wanted to, before she went back to school, I wanted to give her some screen time as well. I don't know where Damon is. Hopefully he's coming in soon. But our next guest is here, is the Reverend Dr. Stephen W. Pogue, which, full disclosure, is my pastor. I would throw that out there. He is the pastor of Greater Centennial AME Zion Church in Mount Vernon. And he used to do, Greater Hood in Harlem, where Curtis Blow did the hip hop church. So a lot of people heard about that. That was his church. He is also now the president of the United Black Clergy of Westchester, which I've had some conversation with him. Hopefully he can whip them into shape and get them on the right path, because I've been very critical of them the last few years. How you doing, Pastor?
I'm doing good, AJ. How you doing? Thanks for having me. How you doing, Olivia? Good to see you.
Hello, nice to meet you.
So for you, I told Kim is my I told Kim, it's live on my Facebook page, but you can share it onto your Facebook page from my page.
Okay.
So that or the church page, so all those people can watch it if they don't have my page. You can watch it and watch the interview that way too.
Share it while we're on.
Huh?
I'm sure somebody will share it while
yeah. So I told Kim, I guess she was supposed to be doing that, so we'll find out. Yes. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me again.
I know there are a couple of things, and I don't know what Damon's working, doubles and triples, and I know he said he'd be late. He might be asleep, so I'm not sure if he's going to be here, but I know he had a lot of questions for you, a lot of stuff he wanted to talk about. But I want first, I'm talking about being the president of the United Black Clergy. Speak about that and what that means, and where do you see the organization going forward?
Man, it is really just an honor to be the president of United Black Clergy, especially in the times in which we live in, and to know that I stand on the shoulders of some great presidents that have come before me, and the founder, Richard Dixon, and we can't forget about W. Franklin Richardson and W. Darren Moore and Bishop Edwards, and all of those who have come before me. And this organization has been a catalyst for a lot of positive things that have happened in the community. And so it's my vision, as I take now the helm of the United Black Clergy, is to continue that positivity, continue some great things happening. I think once the clergy comes together, there are some very positive things that we can do in the community. Because I think that when the clergy is silent, that becomes problematic, because people are looking for that prophetic voice in the midst of chaos and everything that's going on. That we are ordained to speak truth to power, right? And so we have to be the ones that'll stand up and say some things that maybe nobody else want to say, or make sure that we bring peace to situations that can be chaotic and all of those other things. So I'm really excited about the direction that the clergy are going to take in these coming months, as we begin now, taking off our summer hiatus, coming back to meet again. And so I'm excited about what's going to happen with the United Black Clergy. Now,
my former pastor, who was somebody that was important to you getting into the clergy, Reverend Rouse.
Yeah.
He always used to say that a church that did not affect the community that it's in is a waste of real estate.
Absolutely.
That's we have to. I saw I can't remember the writer. I read a book a long time ago. It was like a thug pastor, a gangster pastor. This guy who was a gangster turned to a pastor. He described the church as a junkyard dog. And I didn't know what he meant by that. So a junkyard dog will be behind the fence, and all in front of it, it'd be prostitution, drug dealing, and all things. As long as it's outside that fence, it won't touch it. But you go inside the fence, then that's when the dog's gonna get you. Some of our churches don't have any. There's a lot of stuff going on outside of the blocks that the church is on. But if you come in the church will help you. You know what I'm saying? But it's not helping those outside. So he was comparing it to a junkyard dog that way, which I thought was really creative. I had never heard anybody talk like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think as churches, we have to affect our community, right? Because we're supposed to be a lighthouse. That no matter how far you're away, no matter how foggy, no matter how rough your road, if you can see that light in that lighthouse and move to it, then help should be there. We shouldn't have to wait for community to come inside our four walls to receive help. We should be able to just open our doors where people feel comfortable, that no matter what walk of life you are, what stance in life you are, what you're going through in life, if you can't find help at the church, where else can you find it, right? And so, one of the things that I've been, since I've been a pastor of Greater Centennial, been very intentional about making sure that we reach community. Even yesterday, we did a community shredding thing. And so it's yes. A little small thing, but do you know how many people had paper and stuff that they've been trying to get rid of, and them little shredders at home was burning out and getting stuck and trying to empty them, just to be able to bring everything you had and watch it go into the truck and get shredded was a positive thing for the community. And so we continue to do that with our feeding ministry, our pantry, all the things that we do, our clothing boutique, all of these things trying to reach the community. And many of the things that we do at Greater Centennial, it's not a cost to our community. And so we want to continue to be a blessing at the community. So we keep moving that fence line, right? And so if we take your analogy of that junkyard dog, we just keep moving the fence, right? And making sure we get more and more people inside the fence, and more and more people understand that the church can be a help to you and not a place where only the elitists can go, right? So it has to be a place where everybody is welcome. So that's what I've tried to do since I've become the pastor.
Now, Olivia?
Oh, yeah, I had a question. So my name's Olivia. I've been interning for Mr. Woodson. And so one of the things that I highlighted a lot was, the importance of young people and reaching young people. So how have you, in your new role, kind of worked to get engaged young people back in the church, bring more community awareness to the young people as well?
That is one of the most difficult things to have to happen, especially since the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When the pandemic happened and all of our youth and children went to this remote learning, they all of a sudden became detached from people, right? And they become so used to being behind the screen that is where they became comfortable. And so we did a lot of virtual this, virtual that, virtual the other things. But now it's time to try drawing our youth back into church, into community, into some activities that are positive, to let people know that you're not in this thing by yourself. A lot of our youth are going through depression and other types of mental health things because of this quarantine and this time of separation. So to be able to do some things for the youth. So one of the things we did for the youth a few months ago, we invited all the youth, I think they're from 8 to 12 years old. We rented out a portion of Dave and Buster's, invited all the youth to come and just had a meal, had some games, and they were able to come. They had a great time. I think we had about 60 youth that day. Coming up September 17th is the HBCU Classic at MetLife Stadium. So any youth between the ages of 12 and 17, while we have tickets available, we're going to let them go for free so they can get connected again and they can begin to get out in the community again. So we continue to try to reach out to the youth, but it's really difficult because of the separation that has happened in the midst of the pandemic.
I want to follow up on that before going to my next question, and welcome my partner in crime, Damon K Jones, who is with us now. And Damon, while you've never met her in person, this is Olivia, the intern that you've been hearing so much about.
How you doing?
Hello, nice to meet you.
Pastor Pogue, how you doing, brother?
Good, Damon. How you doing, man?
Fine.
Reverend Mouse used to always say something else too. He said a church without a thriving youth ministry is a dead church. Because eventually people get older and older and they die. So if you're not doing anything to bring in the young people, you're looking at a dead church.
Absolutely. I mean, youth are vital. My members laugh at me all the time because I'm always the one that says, let them babies run around the church, right? You don't expect them to sit down. They don't sit at home for 2 hours and sit still, right? So there's no expectation for them to sit still in church. So let them have some freedom. So church is not a place where they say, I hate going there. I can't do this. I can't do that. So give them some freedom to be who they are. So then they can say, hey, I want to come back. And that also lends to the activities you have for them, the things that they have for them, that church becomes a place that they can relate to and not a place that they can't stay.
Now, before I turn over to Damon, I know one of the things that Black Westchester has been very critical about Black pastors. We come from, a lot of us hear references to Martin Luther King, but in the days of Martin Luther King, the church was that. The church was where the community gathered for activism, for fighting for rights, and where things were. It was the pastors that put the word out on certain things, and we have now and I'm not going to say there's no pastors speaking up, because you can't never say no. You can't. But we have a lack of Black preachers speaking up on some of the conditions in our community these days, and that's something we've been very critical of. That when even like with Kenneth Chamberlain, a local situation, I saw more rabbis and more white preachers and pastors that came to the courtroom during the hearing. I didn't see many of the Black pastors even in White Plains where it was. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. We've been very critical of that. I just want to, as the head of the United Black Clergy, I wanted to, we wanted to speak a little bit.
Yeah, I think we'll become more vocal about some things. Hopefully there's no expectation that we're going to show up at every dogfight, right?
Right. Same thing with us. We're Black Westchester.
Yeah. You can't show up at everything because then your voice gets muted, right? So to be able to speak up to those things that need speaking up to, those things that need somebody to take a stance. I wasn't here during the Kenneth Chamberlain thing, but to be able to stand up and be present, right? One of the most powerful ministries that any of us have is the ministry of presence. Absolutely. That if you can show up and let somebody know that you care, let somebody know that you're concerned about their issue, because many times, people feel like if I show up, it makes me feel like I'm siding with one side or the other. And it's not that. We have to be able to stand up for the issue. I remember they were having some of these budget issues and all of those other things. I was one of the only ones out there saying this is wrong, right? Because I'm not afraid to be able to say what needs to be said. It's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. But we can't just be negative. We also have to celebrate the positive things that are happening and speak to the positive things that are happening as well. So I think you know me well enough, AJ, that those things that need to be spoken about, that I'll get the clergy together and we'll make statements where we need to make statements. We'll speak to those things that need our voices linked to it. So I'm excited about that as well. And sometimes it takes those tough decisions, but this is what God has called us to do, to make those tough decisions and begin to speak.
Damon K Jones.
Good evening, everybody. Yeah. So, Pastor Pogue, man, I want to congratulate you, man, for taking the helm of the United Black Pastors. One thing I wanted to ask, brother, like, what is the agenda, or what is the plan, for the outreach for the communities to see, not, and I'm not even talking about press conference. I'm talking about just being out there with agenda, because some people might think, I found out later on that, the United Black Clergy is Westchester, it's not just Mount Vernon. So what is the plans to make that more known, that Black pastors throughout Westchester is actually united, and have an agenda for the community to address issues, and to address the need for more spirituality within the Black community?
Without a doubt, you'll hear some more about that. After my installation, we take the summer off. So our first meeting is coming up next month. And so some of the agenda items are going to be, where do we need to be? How can we effectively and positively affect our community? How do we make sure that we're reaching out to young people? How do we make sure that our communities know that the church is there for them, and that we can help them through some things, and not just in Mount Vernon, but in Westchester and vicinity. I've had pastors reach out to me from different communities wanting to be a part and coming and wanting to be at the table of United Black Clergy. So I'm really excited about having those voices at the table and to come up with an agenda that is not just my agenda, but is the agenda of the clergy and how we move forward. That one of the things that's really important to me is to make sure that for the most part, we're all singing off to the same sheet of music, right? And that we're all moving and showing up, that we don't have these issues where just a few of us are showing up and nobody else showing up. But to make sure that when we show up in numbers, and we show up with our voice to make sure that people know that we're here for them, and that people can reach out to clergy. Because you're right, sometimes people just need spirituality. They don't need the politician in that moment. They don't need the doctor in that moment. They just need that pastor in that moment. And so to be able to have a cadre of pastors from all different denominations, all different backgrounds, all different situations and circumstances, that will be able to speak to whatever that situation is. So those things you'll be able to see in the coming months.
Let me cut it real quick. So I've often said that, outside of my parents, the reason I'm not dead or in jail like a lot of my classmates, so to speak, was because of I had a lot of other people reaching out to me. I have family in Grace, I have family in Bethesda, I have family in Shiloh and Rochelle. I was part of all the youth ministries, even though I wasn't a member of none of their churches. But Grace had what a building that Ernie Davis owns used to be the youth ministry building, and downstairs where Ken Bright's organization is, used to be a pool table and everything. And on certain nights, it was a safe zone for me to just be there and just to be there, play. And the youth minister was there, and he wasn't preaching to us, and he knew sometimes, but it was a safe place for me not to be in the streets. We don't have safe places for the youth and especially after the Kayla Green and situation. We have trauma after trauma after traumatic incident after traumatic incident, and there are no safe places. We do have the Boys and Girls Club, but how many people are there? How many people can fit in there? There's no safe place for them to unpack. And for us to heal our community, not just Mount Vernon, but our Black communities, we need safe places for our youth, young people to go and have activities and maybe be able to unpack some of the traumatic situations. So,
absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt about it that our community has been through major trauma, and it does not seem. And one of the things that I hope that our youth do not become numb to, right? Because once they become desensitized, it's just trouble for them and trouble for us. And so as we continue to build programs at Greater Centennial, one of our missions is to make sure that we have some youth generated programs. Of course, you need room to do some of this stuff, right? And so soon we'll be starting again on our building that we've been building for a long time. And once that building is complete, we're going to have youth programs in there, programs for our seniors, so that those will be safe spaces for our youth to be able to just hang out. As you talked about the hip hop church in New York City, I was a pastor there. I remember the youth used to just come and all sit in this room and do their homework together and talk together. It was their safe space. I would come on any day of the week. Like, what are y'all doing here? Nothing. We just chilling, doing our homework. It was a safe space for them. We have to get back to those places where we're not so rule oriented. There's so many rules. You can't do this, you can't do that, can't come in here looking like that, you can't come in here looking like that. We have to relax some of that so that we attract youth who just want a safe place to be. We have to believe, without a doubt, there are many youth out there that just want a safe place to be. They don't want to be in the house all the time. I just want a safe place to be. And so we have to create those spaces and create those programs. And you're right, we don't have a lot of space, a lot of programs for our youth in Mount Vernon. And I mean, it's essential that we begin to program ourselves, that our programming is for our youth, and to make sure that not only is there some recreational stuff, but there's some mental health stuff for our youth.
Yes, absolutely.
So to unpack. I mean, a lot of them have to deal with so much anger. They're just angry. They're angry because of their home issues. They're angry because of school issues. They're angry because of a whole bunch of things that they're having in their life. And we got to be able to let people know it's all right to sit down and talk to somebody about whatever it is that you're going through. And you are probably not alone. most of the time you are not the only one going through this, but to be able to help unpack it. And some of them, they're just rehearsing what they've seen in their lives, right? They've seen this
Absolutely.
for so long, and now they just follow that pattern. We have to create a different path for them and let them know that there is a way out and there are opportunities for them. If it's not college, it's trade school. There's something for you, that each youth has something that they are really interested in. How do we make sure we build upon that and make sure that we encourage them to do whatever it is that they want to do? Because our youth are brilliant, man. I mean, some of our youth are so smart, it's a shame, but we have to feed into them. We have to continue to encourage them and make sure that they're doing the positive things in our community.
And just to say one more thing to that, we had all those safe places, and I was a rebel without a pause or a cause, and I was trying every way to mess it up. And we had all of those places, and now not having anything, you know what I'm saying? It's like it's a problem, and that, again, not just Mount Vernon. I don't want to. That's a nationwide in our Black communities. So I would hope that you at the helm of the United Black Clergy would encourage that with all of the others, that because they have spaces like Darren Morton, and not to call him out there, he got a building that a community center. Nope, it's never being used. That building just sits, empty all the time. And we could be doing things. And again, not to call him out, but he made that statement one day that he could be doing more with that building.
Well, I just want to say, man, I did a video maybe 2 weeks ago, right? And a lot of time we want to blame the youth, but
right.
I think the adults have to look into the mirror sometime, because they're children. We create the policies in our cities. We create the conditions in our cities. The youth don't. They're not control of budgets. They're not control of the police department. They're not control of the recreation department. They're not control of none of that. The adults are, right? So and then when we don't do anything, when we don't do anything in our community, and the youth react to that, because they have a lot of energy, the testosterone is growing in these young men, and we have nothing for them, and we're not giving them nothing, then you could expect them to do things that young people do, right? So I think we have to get to the point of adults that we have to accept our responsibility to make a safe community, to make a busy community, to make a spiritual community, right? Because, our kids are doing a lot of other things, but going to church on Sunday. You understand what I'm saying? So I think, if we're going to have the community that we want, we have to accept our responsibility as adults and stop saying, oh, these youths are, these kids are crazy. These kids are crazy, Pastor, because, if inmates can have PlayStation and iPads, right? I'm just being real because, this is a problem as a correction officer for 33. I have a problem with that, but our kids in Mount Vernon High School can't get iPads, right? Or they don't, or their families don't make enough money to have PlayStations. They're creating a jail environment that our kids will be comfortable in.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So we have to really take the bulls by the horns, because the way the adults are doing legislation and policy, right, is reinforcing the school to prison pipeline, because kids actually don't have textbooks, but they could get an iPad if they go to jail, so we have to really, as adults, we got to really take our kids and love them and care for them and create a safe city for them, so we won't have our children just fall into the cycle of crime and violence.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. When we look at what's happening just in Mount Vernon, we pay the highest taxes in the county, right?
Exactly.
And most of those are school taxes. If we just be real, most of those are school taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Where are those dollars going, right? And to make sure that the technology that our kids need, that they can have that technology, that the after-school programs that our kids need, that they can have those programs. To make sure that even in our youth department budget, when we're passing budgets and most of it is salary related, we're failing our children because we're not saying, I'm not willing to put my money where my mouth is. I'm not willing to say I want to sow into some young people's lives because the dollars are going elsewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
We rehab schools, but we don't make sure that we're rehabbing the teachers and making sure the teachers have what they need so they can be effective to reach the youth, to make sure that these dollars are being spent wisely. We pass budgets, and after we fuss about the budget, and whether we agree with it or not, we don't hear any more about the budget. We then see that later on somewhere down the line that the budget was misappropriated and funds went here instead of going there. And the only people that suffer, you're absolutely right, is our young people. But we as the adults, we as the citizens of the community have to make those that we elect accountable for what we've elected them to do. And I think that's going to be important, to make sure that we speak to those things because the money is there.
That's right.
Money's there, right? You just have to put the money there, right? So when we think about, all of the opportunities for our youth, how does that get communicated, right? How do we make sure that the youth in the community know, and somebody said, oh, all they got to do is call the youth bureau. They ain't doing that. You got to make sure that you're bringing it to them, right? And so you have a select youth who may know about something, other youth who really need it don't know about it. And so we got to make sure that all youth are covered in whatever we're doing, and making sure we put more dollars where we need the dollars to be going to. So I think you're absolutely right. But we as the adults have to speak to that, right? Because they can't vote yet. They can't do that yet. We have to do that for them.
And I always say that, the reason, like I said, I'm not there in jail is because of adults. And if we feel the youth is out of control, it's not the youth failing us, it's us failing the youth.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned something, and I want to really quickly go back to that because a lot of people speaking about have talked about it. You mentioned finishing the building, the other building. There are plans for that. Some people figure that was just written off and it's not going to happen, and it's dead and it's just there, and there's a whole bunch of nobody knows what's going on.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. We've engaged engineers, general contractors, all those things now. So it's going to happen. We'll have to run plans again through Mount Vernon and all those other things, which may take some time. But our engineers are working through some of those things. Already met with the planning commission, already met with the building department to make sure that the process to get those plans approved.
Yeah, I had to go back to that. I wanted to, because, I want to hit. We try to, eliminate the rumors. We lost Damon. I'm sure he'll be back. We try to, we try to cut through. There's a lot of white noise, and there's a lot of things written, and people don't know what's true or not. So when we do the show, we try to bring that out and address some of those issues. So you had mentioned it, so I definitely wanted to come back to that.
Yeah, I mean, I really thank you for that. I mean, the building's going to happen. It's going to Rev Dr. Belvy and Shirley Jackson Family Life Center will have space for community activities and those type of things. So I'm really excited about it. And once the plans get drawn up, we'll talk more about it.
All right, absolutely. Olivia.
Yeah, I actually did want to bring up something. As part of the Gen Z generation, as a 20-year-old young woman growing up in Mount Vernon, I definitely agree where growing up, I felt like there wasn't really much for me to do as well. And I love my community. I love Mount Vernon. I'm glad to be, growing up here. But I definitely do feel like there was parts that I missed out on, or maybe events or things I could have done that could have been held to really make me grow up and feel even more proud of where I'm from and even more excited. So I think definitely now, given after the pandemic, young people are still trying to figure out, can we do things in person? Where can we hang out? What can we do? I think it's really important that we do make those safe spaces for people to go and communicate with each other, reconnect with one another, especially like you mentioned, the mental health crisis that's going on with young people. I see people on social media all the time, on TikTok especially, talking about how they've been dealing with their mental health struggles and things that they've done to kind of help them overcome that, or seeking therapy. So I definitely do think it's important, and it's positive to see that young people are looking towards therapy, looking towards spirituality to kind of refigure out how they can navigate their lives and navigate the stuff that they're going through. So I think it's great that you brought that up, and I hope that new building and the new space will kind of bring in the young people and help them to reconnect and talk to one another and say, like you said, we're not going through this alone. There's other people who can help and you can speak with if you're in a dark place. So I think it's important as well.
Absolutely. And one of another initiatives that we're working on at Greater Centennial is to have a mental health drop-in center that those that need health counseling. We'll have some groups going on. So if you know a good social worker or therapist looking for some work, let me know. But we're really looking to bring somebody on that will absolutely help us with some groups and individual stuff, because people just need that. You just need an outlet. You got to be able to breathe. And so, and especially for our youth and for even adults. I mean,
Right.
how about the parents that are trying to figure out what to do? When you think about going through a pandemic and now you're homeschooling, essentially your child, and you have no clue about this homework. You have zero clue about it. I always admit I'm not smarter than the fifth grader. I thank God my girls were brilliant and they were able to figure out their math on their own, because I wouldn't have been able to do it, but what about the parents that say, I can't do it and I don't know who to point somebody else to help them do it? And now frustration and tension in the house. Maybe they grew up in the time that I did. You better sit down and do that homework, or you know what's going to happen, right? And so you sit down and you figured it out. But our kids are not in that same place then. Now we got to make sure that we get them the necessary tutoring, make sure we get them the necessary homework help, and to be able to get that same thing for our parents, so our parents can have that talk and that outlet too, that my kid is driving me crazy, right? And so how do they make sure that there's an outlet for them? So all of those things, we need all of those things.
Right. I definitely do think it needs to be like a family effort for sure, because parents go through things as well. And I think when it comes to raising young people, or coming from my perspective, I feel like the relationship I've had with my mom is super great. We've always been able to kind of talk through those issues and talk through different stuff. Hey, I'm going through this, or mom, hey, how do you think I should approach this situation? So I feel like when it comes to young people, sometimes they may feel like it's harder to communicate with their parents because they grew up where it's like, I'm your parent, you're the child, and we're not going to have that sort of relationship, where I feel like a lot of my friends have maybe lost out on that because their parents kind of raised them that way. And now it's like, if they're going through something, they feel like it may be hard to share that with their parent or really come to them and confide in them. So I think definitely therapy, talking, really getting parents and children on the same, line of communication can be helpful when it comes to mental health issues, can be helpful when it comes to just, hey, I need advice on this situation. I don't know how to figure this out. So I definitely think that having spaces like that will be very, very helpful, especially for our community.
Absolutely.
Damon.
So there's a public rift between, there's been back and forth. Why are you laughing, AJ?
Because I'm waiting to try to see where you going.
There's been
Me
back
too.
and forth with the police union, the Mount Vernon Police Union, and the mayor. And there was an attempt that went horribly with previous, I guess, presidents of the United Black Clergy. Went kind of bad. At you being president now, and I know you had Nicholas on your show, and you being president, moving forward, do you think that there will be some type of coming together of the two, because public safety, whether Black people like it or not, until we're able to make our own community safe ourselves, we're going to need police. Like I'm all this defund the police, and that's foolish talk, right? That's foolish talk. So, but we need police that's going to be professional. We need police that's going to respect the citizens. We need police that's going to do their job, within the policy, procedures, and training. But also, we need them to work together, because in the last couple of years, within the last 2 years, like 30 cops transferred out, and that's
So
a
they're
sign
the
that there's
lowest paid police department in Westchester County.
Well, that too. But I mean, when people leave, it's more than pay.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? It's more than pay. So, you know, pay is part of it, but it's the atmosphere. You know, and if you're not feeling good with the atmosphere, and you have an avenue to leave, you know, they leave. So, you know, I mean, what is there any agenda for that? You know,
Man, that was a great question. Of course, you would ask me a hard question. It's a hard situation, right?
yes,
It's a hard situation because they're in a contract dispute, right?
right.
Haven't had a contract for a long time. In my opinion, you got to figure out a way to settle that union contract. You just got to figure out a way to settle the union contract. You know, when you have people, should I say this? Yeah, I'm gonna say it. When you have people who are working in an administration making $95,000, $100,000 a year, and you have cops on the street that are the lowest paid in the county, it's hard for me to want to stay. And it's hard for me for you to tell me I can't give you a raise when everybody around me is getting a raise.
There you go.
It's hard for me to be able to say stay and continue to fight the good fight when I know I'm the lowest paid, not just in the county, I'm the lowest paid in the city. You know, but I have the most difficult job to do. And so this is not siding with the police against the administration. It's not that. It has to be you got to figure out what that bridge is. And you can't continue to kick the can down the road and kick the can down the road, kick the can. You just can't keep it kicking the can down the road, because after a while, there's going to be no road to kick the can down. You're going to have to face this, and you're going to have to come together. And I don't think it's a clergy issue I think it's too far gone for that at this point. I think that the adults need to come in the room and begin to have this conversation. We do not need to have Facebook squabbles about public safety. We do not need to have Facebook squabbles about public safety, because not everybody is out for the community good. And so when we find out we only got 2 cops on the street and all those other things, I mean, we need to stop saying those type of things.
Yes.
It's great that we got 15 new patrol cars coming and all those things. My prayer is that we have the police to put in them.
Exactly.
Making sure that our streets are safe. Most of the police officers that we have in the Mount Vernon Police Department are great officers. They want to be here. They have a heart for the city. I've spoken to a lot of them, say, listen, I love the city and I'm doing everything I can do to stay, but every day it gets harder. Right? Because of all of, like you said, Damien, it's not just the pay, it's the infighting, the conflict, the everything. It's just too much. And so when we have our officers that are struggling with conflict, what does that say to community, right? How do we say that the people that are in charge of our public safety, the people that are in charge of running the city, they can't even come together without public squabble? How do you expect the community to respond? How do young people? How are young people supposed to respond? How are our young people supposed to act? So I think that there has to be some way of coming together, and it is my prayer. You can almost bet that we won't be at a press conference unless everybody's coming together and there's some solution. As long as I'm the president, because I think it's too far gone at this point. That there's always going to be finger pointing. There's always going to be a half a story told. You know, he said this, she said that, they said this. It's going to be always that. So I just believe that we got to get to a place and say we're serious about, just like I said, when we're serious about youth, we'll put the money there. When we're serious about public safety, we'll put the money there.
Yeah, you know, one of my elders in Black law enforcement used to always say, you can't solve the gang problem when the leaders are acting like gangs. Right. So they have to come together and come to a solution, because you just need public safety. Like, public safety is the cornerstone of your community. And, you know, and this is another thing, you know, when you're questioning the public safety, it brings your property value down. It brings your property value. So if someone's trying to sell a home, or, you know, they can't sell it because the people that's looking, they see crime and violence, high crime, they see the numbers rising. When your numbers rise, when your crime numbers rise, your property value goes down.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, as they come together, there has to be a solution. And the solution can't be we can't afford it, because we can't afford not to.
And that's the answer. We can't afford not to.
And that's the seriousness of
it. And the bad thing about the cops leaving is the good ones.
Yeah.
The ones that care. Because I see, I was sad to see Alex leave. Like, Alex was one of the good ones, man. I'm not mad for him to go, into a better situation, making more money. But I was really sad to see him and a few other leave. Because I was like, these are the ones that, really, really care. And they're from here. And they feel they have to leave.
Right. The bad ones can't leave. Right. The bad ones can't. They got too much baggage, so they can't leave. So you're creating an atmosphere that you're gonna have a police department, full of bad ones, or those that actually, we lost the past. Those that actually love the community, are staying, or those that are too old to leave, that are staying. But it has to be a better. I've been in law enforcement for 33 years, man. I've never seen anything like this before.
It's a difficult situation. It's really difficult. And, and I think once they settled that situation, I remember when Cuomo was governor, he made all these police departments put in these plans about what they were going to do. And, and many of them did it and said they were going to implement it. And then you didn't hear anything about it. Some of them, Damon, me and you said on the Westchester one, I thought we had real good solid stuff in there, and it'd be good to see if that solid stuff happened.
But to see, that's Pastor, that's part. See, this is, and I said I spoke to Kenny Chamberlain a couple of weeks ago, and it's crazy that they dropped it. Like, it just, once Cuomo left, it was like, oh, well, we ain't got to do that no more. No, yes, you still need to do it. And the AG should be held responsible, because she was supposed to take those reports and culminate one big list of suggestions.
Yep.
And that never happened, and I'm like, well, did you waste our time? Because we really put in a lot of good things that were in there, even though Black law enforcement gave a report 3 years before that, and most of the same stuff was in there, and they still didn't act on it, and we're still waiting for that, because there's a lot of good things in there. But what happened also was the cops pushed back with a letter to the county legislators, and then they got scared. So it's just like, well, what do we do all this for?
Yeah.
If you just going to get a letter, from 100 and, well, not all the cops probably were backing it, but you're going to get a letter from one police department, not all of, like, it was just one. And then you get scared and run, and you don't put these recommendations in place that were good, solid recommendations.
Good, solid, especially around training.
Absolutely.
And all of those, I mean, there was some solid stuff in there that shouldn't have hurt any police department, because that was never our intent to hurt the department. And so to be able to see that some of these things just fell by the wayside, and we'll probably never hear about them again. Well,
we have to, we have to keep asking them, right? This is Lattimore's last go, but Ken, he wants to be county exec. What are you doing, bro? You know what I'm saying?
Even if you don't put it together statewide, we could put the report together from every city in the county.
Oh, absolutely.
And have a county report that says this is what the recommendations are, and here's how we need to implement them.
Right. I think the county was enough, but I'm still kicked back on how we still don't have any civilian complaint review boards in none of the municipalities. Not Mount Vernon or nothing.
Well, you can't put a civilian complaint review board through the police department, right? So
no, exactly. But the city council knew.
Complaint department, you can't have it.
No, absolutely not. And I don't understand, for the life of me. I don't care if you're police, but if you're a black man and you're in uniform, right? I make sure I drive home in my uniform, and I put old hats in the back of the car that I drive back and forth to alert the state trooper that this might be somebody in law enforcement here, so he won't get itchy fingers.
Right.
Right. Me and my wife are law enforcement, and we had an incident with a state trooper that I ended up having to go to court, but he didn't show up. But he was very disrespectful. So it doesn't matter, even if you're black and you got that badge, you gonna run into these type of cops. So for any black cop that sit there and talk about we don't need a civilian complaint review board, you're crazy. Because it can happen to you. And it has happened to black cops throughout the United States, time after time again. So we should never think it's not going to happen to us. So anybody who don't want to, any cop that don't, especially a black cop that don't want a civilian complaint review board, something's wrong with you.
I agree. I think it'll help the whole community and the police department.
Some of the other things that are plaguing our community that in Westchester that they act like doesn't exist is homelessness, poverty, which it comes and leads to a lack of the services. We have places like Mount Vernon where they remove the services from Mount Vernon, but then they ship the poor here because they don't want them in other communities, but there's no services for them here.
Right.
What do you think is going to happen? And I think even the city was shipping their homeless up here. You know what I'm saying, to Mount Vernon. Like, we have a big issue that we have to deal with, and it's only getting worse. I don't know how the church can be helpful in those, especially the homelessness.
Yeah, I think, for a long time, Mount Vernon was New York City, is what the governor of Texas did to New York City. Put them on a bus.
I never thought.
We're gonna steal that, right? We're gonna credit you the first time, but you're gonna hear us say it 10 more times. We're just gonna own it now.
It's yours. But for real, and there are no services that'll really help where we can put homeless people in Mount Vernon.
Right.
And so many of them come here because they don't get chased out as they do in other communities. Mm-hmm. And so they find it comfortable here, but they don't find the services that they need here. And that's the unfortunate part. Here's the crazy thing. When we talk about the governor of Texas shipping the migrants up to New York City, all of a sudden they're going to get in school, we're going to find them housing and all those other things. But what about the people sleeping in the subway? Well, and they've been sleeping in the subway. They've been in the subway for a long time. How come there's no opportunity for housing? And so we have to be able to find opportunity for housing, because in every city across the nation, the amount of rent and the cost of housing is rising, and it continues to rise because you have people who are working but are sleeping in their cars.
That's right.
That go to work every day and are living in a homeless shelter because they cannot afford rent. We have to make sure that we have affordable places for people to live that are not all in Mount Vernon, right? We have to make sure that we spread out affordable housing across the county so that people can be able to find places to live, and you don't have a concentration of poverty in one area.
See, that was that HUD thing that Estorino was fighting. It was supposed to be spread out throughout the county, and he made a statement that says something along the line like they had to have a certain amount of affordable housing or whatever units through the county. He said we do, but the majority of it was in Mount Vernon. But they had the number, and none of it was in the chapel cars and all of those other places. They didn't want none of that there, and he pushed back against that, and that's the issue.
It's still an issue because you have to be able to have workforce housing. You have to be not just affordable housing, not just low income housing. I'm talking about workforce housing for people who go to work every day. They need a safe place to live. Mount Vernon has the highest homelessness rate in the school system anywhere. We have so many homeless students in our school system that we have to provide for. And we do so many things to try to help them, at least through the church. We try to do to help as many as we can. I know this year and last year, we had students who didn't have any support, but they got into college. So, we bought computers and refrigerators and sheets and blankets just so they can have something to unpack when they got to school. I mean, these are the things that are really serious that we got to continue to tap into and make sure that we don't become the dumping ground for those who are homeless and helpless. Unless you give us the services, unless you give us the support, then we can't become the dumping ground. And where are we going to put them? I mean, it becomes real difficult. I think, and you know, and then not to have a quality healthcare system in the city of Mount Vernon.
That's a whole nother. Yeah.
So that feeds into it, right? Because with poverty becomes health issues, right? And to have a hospital in the city that has systematically eroded healthcare services out of the city of Mount Vernon, it makes all of us vulnerable. Now, you know, I can talk about Mount Vernon Hospital and Montefiore all day long, but you know, I think Montefiore has done this community a disservice in helping us in solving some of these issues that we have in our community.
Also, when we talk about housing and stuff, we like people Olivia's age. She's in college. She's 20 years old. Now there's nothing like now maybe she wants to come back. She wants to come back home, you know, start a family. There's nothing for, you know, first-time homeowners or something. There's nothing to bring her back home. So we're losing our best and our brightest, and they're going somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? And that's a problem too for our future. You know what I'm saying? If we don't consider that, Mount Vernon doesn't have a master plan. When Dwayne Brown was the head of the Mount Vernon Chamber of Commerce, he showed me, and he was going to let me hold it, but it was falling apart. The last master plan is from 64 or 60. I was born in 66. The last master plan is from the 60s. Clinton tried to do one, but then he didn't get reelected and it never went through. We don't have a master plan. Every other community has a master plan. Like you saw when they took over Harlem and they built it, you know, they had an anchor with the Magic Johnson Theater, they had an anchor here, and they build in between. That's a master plan. We just throw stuff up everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no plan for the community, and you can't move. We can't. The plan for Mount Vernon is the no plan. Like you know what I'm saying? So it's like, what's going on? You know.
I have heard that there is a plan coming.
I hope so.
So
I mean, it's well overdue. I'm 56 years old. The master plan is older than me, and I didn't even want to hold it in my hand while he was showing it. The front page fell off. I was like, no, how about you make a copy and give it to me? I didn't even want that in my present if that was the only copy, you know, for historical references.
Yeah, but I hear that there is work being done on a strategic plan for the city. That I don't know how close it is to being done or whatever, but I heard that there is a strategic plan for the city. But, you know, even as you think about that strategic plan, you know, I also think you have to think about gentrification, right? Because when we start talking about revitalization, you also have to start thinking about gentrification. Because not many cities have pulled off great revitalization without gentrification. And so what does that mean for those who live in this city, work in this city, care about this city? What is that, you know, revitalization going to do for them? You know, they say, oh, we're going to move you out just for a little while until we fix this, and then we're going to bring you back. And many of them never make it back. And so we have to make sure that when we talk about revitalization, that we're also making sure that our citizens have a guarantee that they'll have a place to come back to while we're revitalizing our city. Because I think that's going to be important as well, that you know, as one of the biggest city of color in the state, I think it's important that we continue to make sure that we look out for one another, especially as we revitalize. We have to revitalize, but we have to do it in a smart manner to make sure that people will come up. I remember years ago when I was pastoring at Greater Hood, I was at breakfast at Gracie Mansion with Mayor Bloomberg. And one of the pastors asked Mayor Bloomberg, what are you going to do about the gentrification of Harlem? And Mayor Bloomberg said, when you elected me to do three things in Harlem: fix the school systems, reduce crime, and bring jobs. He said, now all three of those things are happening. Now people want to live here. Now, because people want to live here, I can't now determine who lives where. People are selling their houses. People are letting other people come in. So, you know, when revitalization comes, gentrification is coming right behind it.
Right. I think there's some things that the city should have done that the city hasn't done yet. in dealing with a lot of the properties and the vacant properties, one thing that they don't do is allow the city workers to actually partner with some financial institution. That kind of be hard when you really don't got credit, but partner with a financial institution and work with city workers on purchasing homes, right? Because that's reinvestment, because that's the taxpayer dollars that are going to city workers that's being reinvested back into the city. Majority of city workers will, if they're not generational people that have generations in Mount Vernon and already have a home, or a relative's home or something like that, they're moving out, right? Because why? Just like you said, Pastor, the taxes are too damn high, right? And then and you're living in crime and violence, so take my money and go up to Middletown. So the whole thing is, now the second thing is, we've talked about this before, and I'll get you a copy, Pastor, is that the people of Mount Vernon really need to come together. The homeowners or a group of people really need to come together and sue Westchester County and the state of New York for reparations. The Mount Vernon has been systematically put in that position. And AJ would tell you, I've been saying this for the last 20 years. There's a report.
Ernie was saying this.
Well, Ernie agreed with me because Ernie
was saying
exactly. Well, Ernie was county legislator when this report was published.
Oh, the 1990,
by the African American Advisory Board to then County Exec Andrew O'Rourke, and what that report explained how they purposely made poor pockets of poor people throughout Westchester County to keep White Plains and make White Plains whiter, right? They moved out in 119 that goes down through Greenburgh. They systematically trick Black people to sell all their homes going down 119, because that used to be nothing but Black businesses going straight down 119 into Elmsford. They tricked them into selling their homes and selling their businesses. Then they ended up building the mall, and then they priced people out. And where did a lot of the people go? They went to Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon, mostly a little
bit of
Mount
Vernon,
a little bit of New Rochelle, which they stopped at. So yeah,
Mount Vernon, Peekskill, Yonkers, and Tuckahoe, and a little Osland, that area. But in the process of all those years, what I'm saying is that a lot of the cities that they did it back then began to change the directions of their cities. Except Mount Vernon, they continued to start building low income. Not saying low income housing is not needed, but as the other lawsuit from that organization in New York City showed, that Mount Vernon had over its share of low income housing, while other cities didn't have any or had a small amount. And if you talk to any social worker that deal with that and would deal with homeless, the first place they look to put after they come out of the shelter in White Plains is put them in Mount Vernon. So it's a system, to continue to put people that need, but not give the actual money, as you said earlier, Pastor, to not give the actual money so the city can deal with the people that they're systematically putting there. If you got all these kids that are homeless, and you got to send them to school, and you got to deal with that dynamic, and Westchester County don't want to give up no extra money, and New York and the state of New York don't want to give up no extra money, then there's a problem with that, right? But this has been going on for at least 3 decades, and Mount Vernon has not got the money that is needed. And what happens? It's a strain on the city, right? You got police leaving, right? These are the effects of that systematic, and what I call systematic racism, because it's a Black city, and I think down the road, forget about the relationships that we have in the political relationships with the Democratic Party, because it's both parties, Democratic, Republican. They've both been doing it to Mount Vernon. But I really think a lawsuit, against the county and against the state needs to happen, because they're not stopping it, and the city's not getting any funds. And look at the result. We can't even pay our police department because money is going everywhere else.
Yep.
And into the actual services of the city.
I would love to see that report, and we can probably have further conversation about that. But let's backtrack for 1 second. We talked about city workers purchasing some of these homes that are on the tax rolls and all those other, and some of them, as you say, maybe some credit issues or something like that. But I think, once again, there's something that you can do. Why don't we sell the home? If the house is on the roll for back taxes, we're not getting them taxes anyway, right? Why don't we sell the home to the worker for, $100, $500, and then allow them to use the equity in the home that they own to begin to fix up the home, right? Because now they have equity. And so because they have equity, they can get some credit to fix the home that they now have purchased for a few $100s. And once again, they continue that we're reinvesting in the city. So there's something that can be done. You just have to be creative.
No, exactly. Well, I didn't say the officers didn't have credit. I said the city.
Well, yeah.
the city having a hard credit issue.
Well, we don't have a credit rating or a bond rating, right? We don't have none of that.
We have none of that at this moment.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But that's reinvesting. A lot of cities have done it. And they can probably get funds from the government, because the program is called the Officer Next Door, right? And a lot of cities do it. One of the best ones that I know is Dade County, and I think it's Dade in Florida. They will give you money to live in the city, and that's great. So and that's part of reinvesting, because the city needs to turn its money around, because the money is leaving out of the city. And if you don't have a master plan that is going to bring in entertainment, things that will bring the people in the city, right? You have to try to keep that money, that tax dollars that you're putting out, you have to try to keep it in the city the best way possible.
Absolutely.
And I know we're coming close to 8 o'clock, and I don't want to take too much of your time. Is there anything we didn't ask you that you want to speak on or address or anything?
One of the things that I think is, as you know, I'm also the chairperson for the Save and Transform Mount Vernon Hospital, as we can try to transform Mount Vernon Hospital to make sure that we're getting quality health care. And one of the things I'm very disappointed about is that Mount Vernon Fest is sponsored by, and Montefiore has decided to give the city of Mount Vernon popcorns and peanuts and Cracker Jacks instead of quality health care. There's no way in the world Montefiore should be sponsoring Mount Vernon Fest when they've done everything they can do to take services out of this city. They wanted to close the hospital. They still want to close the hospital. They've gotten millions of dollars in federal funds and have not invested them in that hospital. And we shouldn't take a sponsorship from them. There's no way in the world we should get a sponsorship from Montefiore to sponsor Mount Vernon Fest, because they're anti-Mount Vernon. And this is what kills me sometimes about our people. We'll take this little handout and these little crumbs and celebrate them, when at the other end they're killing us. We don't have a fully functioning ICU. They'll say, oh, well, we have about 12 beds open. No, we need more than that. At the height of the pandemic, when they were bringing in ships and opening the Jacoby Center in the city, we had empty floors and people in the city were being shipped out to other hospitals. They're still, to this very day, being shipped to other hospitals if they come in with some chronic illnesses that we're not able to handle. And then we allow them to sponsor our party, so they give us some peanuts and some Cracker Jacks, and we're supposed to be happy with that. So I'm very disappointed in that. I could talk about that all day. Very disappointed in that. But I want to thank you for having me on today. Anytime you want me on, I'd love to come on and just continue to have conversations. I think they're
absolutely. Thank you, man. Thank you for and that hospital is very serious. It's a very serious issue, and is there before you leave, is there a contact information that if people want to know more about the hospital, know about what you're doing with the hospital, that they could contact you?
Yep, they can just email me at pastor@greatercentennial.org, and I'll get back to them or shoot them in the right direction to make sure somebody can answer their question. I can't.
I'm also on the committee, so if they can't reach the pastor, they can email Mr. AJ Woodson at Gmail, and I'll make sure it gets to the pastor. So,
yeah, we'll do. And then finally, AJ, before I leave, I want to invite the city of Mount Vernon to come on out next Saturday. Our back to school rally, free haircuts, vaccinations, food, backpacks, school supplies, games, all of these things. We want to do this free for our community. Uniforms, all of those things. We partner with the United Way. We've gotten some socks. We're gonna give out socks. There's a whole bunch of stuff we're gonna give away. Just want to make sure our kids are ready.
If you have a flyer, please send it to us.
Yeah, send it to AJ. Yep.
I want to thank you for coming on. I appreciate your time, but I also, and I said this before, I want you to utilize us when you need to get the word out, when you need to speak on something, when you need to get information out. I mean, you know, people think of this as just me and Damon's paper. You know, we created this to be the community's paper. You know what I'm saying? So,
absolutely.
You know, we want you to utilize us as much as you can, and it's an open door. Whenever you be like, I need to come on the show to talk about something.
Exactly.
You know, just give me a call. I mean, you know.
Absolutely. I got both of your numbers. I definitely use it.
Absolutely.
Please do.
Any last words, Olivia, for the pastor?
No, I think it was great. Thank you for sharing all your information. I definitely took a lot from this conversation, and I'll be sure to relay it to other people I know. So thank you.
Thank you so very much, and best wishes at school.
Thank you.
On you, and you do well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
All right. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night.
Good night. So that was the second interview. As you met our
Olivia, you should have been coming on the show a long time ago.
I'll still be here a few more weeks. We can do another one.
and we talked about that in the beginning when we talked about her doing the internship. I told her I would get on the show, and it's just been schedules and just everything we're doing. It was crazy, but I told her I definitely wanted to get her on this week. I wanted the people to see her, and I wanted to applaud her for the great job that she did and the stories that she's done.
Absolutely.
And this is what Damon and I started this for. We wanted to help encourage and inspire the next generation of truth speakers and create a platform where they can come up and come through and go off and do what they're going to do. So for everything, if you don't invest in your youth, then whatever you're working on is a dead issue. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's why I wanted to bring, we have to think about your generation like you're in college.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? When you graduate college, there'll be a decision like you might want to stay with mom for a little while, then you might want to do your own thing.
Right.
What's going to bring you back to Mount Vernon? What's going to make you want to raise a family here and raise children here? You know what I'm saying? And then the cost of everything is so expensive. Like, can you even afford to live here? And we need to think about your generation seriously for the future of the city. We definitely need to think about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Damon, any questions or anything you want to say to Olivia?
No, I just want to tell her thank you. It's nice finally meeting you, but thank you for the work that you've done. And listen, we appreciate it. We appreciate it. And you're always welcome to come back. Always welcome to come back.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Yeah.
That's great.
She came with me yesterday, Damon. She warmed up the crowd. She introduced the crowd. She welcomed them and everything. And introduced me. All I had to do was just get up and speak. Like it was already set for me.
Great. That's
great. Yeah. She held
That's
it down.
Great.
Yes. So and you come in Saturday, right?
Yes, I'll be there Saturday.
Okay, great.
So yeah, for everybody, Damon and I we're doing what is titled a book brunch. We'll both have our books out there. We're doing it at the Black-owned coffee shop called Bougie Brews, 52 Main Street. A great Black business. We'll have a DJ out there, DJ Big Homie Jihad. Yeah. AKA Kenny Chamberlain, for everybody who knows him. And we're gonna have, for the author talk kind of conversation, we're gonna have longtime radio show host Bob Marone. He said to tell you he's really looking forward to it, and he was trying to get the name of one of your books so he could get it real quick and he could read up on it. So he have something to ask you good questions. So he called me last week. He called me the other day so he could be prepared. So yeah, he's gonna do that, and then you're gonna have it's co-sponsored by Cupcake Cutie Boutique. Best cupcakes in the world. What is it? 8 South 6th Avenue, something like that.
8 South 6th Avenue, Mount Vernon.
Yeah.
Go to Cupcake Cutie Boutique on Instagram and check out all the great flavors and cakes and
August is Black-owned Business Month. It's something that no one else is talking about but us for some reason. We need to support our Black businesses. In this issue, I highlighted 2 businesses. One was Bougie Brews, and one is Miss Hulk, a Black-owned comic book store in Mount Vernon. Great store. They got the old arcade games like Galactica and Miss Pac-Man.
Yeah, you was telling me.
And you don't even have to pay for them to play them. Like, they're free. Like, you go in there and they have live music, and they had jazz on Thursday. They had jazz music in there playing. They have games and stuff they do, and it's really good. If you in the comic books, you definitely up your fandom by going through there. She said those books, so the titles we gave her, she said they weren't available, but she's gonna keep looking out for them.
Okay, cool.
We were talking about the Superman smashes the KKK or something like that.
Yeah.
And the Batman version where he was he went after the white cop for killing the young black man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she's gonna look for those. She says she hasn't seen it. What we have Malvina M. Freeman said, I don't get a chance to watch and listen to you often, but I do appreciate the information that is given. Thank you. Greatly appreciate that. Sharon Burns said, thank you for the conversation needs to continue. Nadine Ellis said, the problem is the same circle of people running the city over and over and no change because it's the same set of people, just sad for a great city. Well said. You're preaching to the choir here. So,
exactly.
Olivia, any last words for the people?
No, I would just say thank you again, like I mentioned, for the opportunity, for allowing me to meet all of you wonderful folks at different events. And I look forward to continuing doing what we do here at Black Westchester. So thank you.
That's what's up. That's
Any
great.
last words, Damon?
No, that's it. Come check us out next Saturday. The book brunch. We're going to have a great time. And we have a great conversation, man, about Black Westchester, about me and AJ's books. And we just have a wonderful time, man,
And since we have officially endorsed him, the primary is Tuesday. I'm telling everybody go out and vote for Jamal Bowman. We've officially endorsed him. And let me just say I just want to say real quickly, a lot of the activists, a lot of the advocates, they always talk about we want a black politician that's going to speak boldly and unapologetically. Well, we kind of got that right now. And if y'all want to keep that, you need to vote for him. Because trust me, if you let them take him out, we're never going to get one again. And if we do get a black face, it'll just be a black face. You know what I'm saying? So this is what y'all said y'all want. He's out there speaking and fighting for us. So go Tuesday, get up, get out, vote like your life depends on it. We're fighting for the very democracy as we speak right now. So it's
I just want to comment on that. If I could take a minute or two.
No. That's the beautiful thing not being in the studio. Nobody's on after us. So
yeah, right. So I sent a letter to as many district leaders as I could, because I was really taken aback on the silence of the Democratic Party and silence of Black elected officials in Westchester County to that mailer that was sent out about Jamal Bowman. What's the guy's name? AJ?
Fadat Gashi.
Fadat Gashi.
So this is what they did to him. They took a picture of him and darkened it and put it on a dark background saying the wrong priority. And on the front is a pretty lily white picture of him and his family and nice bold colors and vibrant. You know what I'm saying? Like he's the right choice. You know what I'm saying? And this is something it's an article in the paper about it, and it's something that has been a historical. They've been doing it historically against us to make us darker, to make us look angrier, to make us look like the big black whatever. So you're scared of us and you vote for the white person. City and State wrote about it, and they said Lindsey Graham did it against the black guy that ran against him. They said the white woman that ran against Reverend Warnock in Georgia did it against him. They said McCain did it against Obama. You know what I'm saying? This is something historically that has been done. And he claims he didn't do it. You know what? We deal with printing every day. We deal with printers. When you do something like this, they give you a proof. You understand what I'm saying? They give you a proof. Now, you see how vibrant that is. And they took his picture. They made him darker. Look how dark he is. And they put it on a background. And the one thing you can see real clear in white letters, the wrong priorities. Everything else is dark. And
Jamal Bowman is in black.
Right. Yeah, they darkened his picture.
No. Jamal Bowman. What's
Jamal Bowman is in black. Yes.
So
black.
they're playing. So this is as I said in the letter.
Oh, and in yellow, reject him. That's
right. This is the usual KKK propaganda tactics that they used to do back in the day. My biggest disappointment is the fact of the silence from Democrats, especially black Democrats, right? And the black Democratic leadership, not to call out publicly on this. Now, I know they're going to hear this thing. They say, well, we talked to him behind the scene. No, that's nothing to talk to behind the scene when you sent that mailer out to thousands of people to try to portray Jamal Bowman, our congressman, as some scary black man. We should be outraged by this, but too many times, they want to paint black men as anti-police,
anti-Semitic,
anti-county, anti-country, and anti-Semitic. But the reality is, if you're black, you can't be anti-Semitic, right? Because black Africans are Semitic. See, and we can't, and we're descendants of, whether they forget, maybe sometimes they forget that we are descendants from Africa, right? Jamaica, Cuba, Puerto Rico, all descendants from Africa. Let's not get it twisted. And we are Semitic also. So you can't be anti something that you are already. Now, when I sent that out, still silence. People that know me know my number. They could call me. Ain't no shame in my game. But we should not allow this to happen or be silent on this. This is the first black man that ever held that position ever in District 16.
Right.
And if I'm not mistakenly, right, probably him and Monte Jones was the first black congressman we ever had in Westchester County. And to allow this to happen, Mondier jumped and ran and went down there and probably is going to lose Tuesday. But the one that we have, it should be, yes, it should be a debate on policy, a debate on what he's done. But when you start playing these little racial games, and then you put lies on it, then you back it up with lies. But before they even read your lies, they see the big black boogeyman congressman to play into your unconscious racism and biasness. And that's sad. And that's sad. See, we need to start calling racism out when we see it. Black people. See, I don't need white people to call it out. I don't need the Sandy Bernard B's and I don't need all the conscious white people to call out the racism. My problem is not enough black people are calling out the racism for what it is. Because they don't have the testicular fortitude to call it out because they worried about some political friendship or something. That's the same thing that we discussed with Kenneth Chamberlain. And we couldn't get black politicians, we couldn't get 5 black politicians to come out and denounce White Plains Police Department for calling Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. the N-word 3 or 4 times, which they denied, but yet
it's
on tape, and killed the man, and killed Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. But if they draw a swastika on a dumpster, it's standing room only with black elected officials to denounce the swastika. But they don't denounce police calling a black man the N-word and killing him. See, this is hypocrisy. And if you're going to represent black people, you better call out racism when you see it. Or black people are going to start calling you out, because I know I am. But I was disgusted in seeing that, and even more disgusted of hearing the silence among black folks, hearing the silence among black Democrats, because they might not like his stances on things. And the thing about it, he's the only black politician that I've seen in dealing with politics that even talk about reparations for black people. He's the only one. Do you remember, AJ, any other politicians speaking out publicly about reparations for black folks?
No, I don't. And I want to say also, this is some Republican tactics. All of those people that I named, McCain, Lindsey Graham, McCain, and the white lady from Georgia, it was Republicans. There's a Democrat doing this.
No. This is a racist tactic. It's not no Republican or Democrats, because it's just as many racist as Democrats as they are Republicans. Right. Don't do that. Yeah. Because you know why? You desensitize it when you just say it's Republicans. Fuck that. It's Democrats too. They do it too. These Democrats
they do it.
No, they're just as racist as the Republicans. Don't get it twisted. They just give a lot of these black folks some banana on a goddamn stick and have them chasing dreams, and then be tricking black people to vote for them where they're just as racist. We just sat here and discussed how they do Mount Vernon. We just sat here. It's just not Republicans doing it. It's Democrats. They systematically segregated Mount Vernon. Democrats did that.
No, and that's not what I was saying. I said in all those examples that city and state used, those were Republicans attacking Democrats.
Exactly.
And I was pointing out that this was a Democrat attacking the Democrat.
No, but Democrats been doing it. Democrats been doing it to black Democrats all along. That's what I'm saying, bro.
Yeah. I agree.
They just got caught. Right. They just got caught. Trust me. They've been doing it. They've been doing it all along. See, they didn't want no black man to have that position anyway. No. Unless they picked the black man to have that position. They didn't want him there.
They can't control him.
They want a Negro they can control. And that's why I joke. And I said, y'all was too worried about me running for a position. Jamal Bowman snuck up and y'all didn't even see him coming. And now it's a conscious effort with all Democrats to keep him out.
No, that's yes.
All of them. Want him out. I don't care. I don't care. Because they said, well, you know what? Ken Jenkins said he supported him. I said, well, did he come out and defend him? They said no. I said, then he don't support him. If he didn't come out and defend him, because Ken Jenkins is literally darker than Jamal. It might happen to him when he run for county exec.
No, I told him on the show what they say about him. He too black for white people, ain't black enough for black people.
But he need to be standing up and saying something with that, because when he run, they might do it to him.
Absolutely.
So like we gotta either we gonna stand for right or we gonna stand for wrong, or we gonna be black people within this political spectrum and call it out. For everybody to be silent, it's appalling.
Reason why everyone
it's really appalling.
Reason everyone needs to get up, get out, and vote Tuesday. If you have not voted and you are registered, you need to get up and get out and vote. If you're in the 16th district, and you need to get up and get out and vote for Jamal. They ain't ready for the transparency of Jamal.
We're not. Look, we're supporting Jamal. We was gonna stay out of the race, but when Gadot canceled it,
Vedot Gashi.
When Vedot Gashi canceled it, we decided to step up and support Jamal. And then I sent the letter. Then I sent the letter out questioning why wasn't there no pushback, public pushback on this mailer. And they lucky. I don't have money to burn like that. I would have mailed out a mailer my damn self, pushing back on it. But the whole thing is that we cannot be silenced. And if black people in Westchester are going to have anything other than a bunch of symbolism, we're gonna have to stand up, because clearly right now we ain't got a damn thing. We ain't got a damn thing. And even our little Wakanda that we call Mount Vernon, even those leaders there are selling off all the vibranium. And that's the land. So we don't have nothing but positions, but Negroes in positions that have no power. When do we get tired of Negroes in positions with no power?
Absolutely. But get out, get up and vote. Olivia, thank you for coming on the show. As you see in the beginning of the show, not afraid to say it. This is the show that is not afraid to say it.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely gonna come out and speak. So you probably didn't expect all that, but when it needs to be said, we're not afraid to say it. So, but thank you for all that you do. Let me know offline weeks that you're free, and I'll get you to come back on for those weeks as well.
Perfect. We'll do.
And see you Saturday.
Yes.
Damon, last words. It is Damon.
Now, I got a lot more to say, man, but I got to go to work.
No, I know. And it's almost 8:30, so I didn't want to.
Yeah, I
that's a whole other
work,
conversation that can take another hour.
Yeah, but I just wanted to say that, and I don't want us to get confused with this Republican and Democrats, because they're showing us that they could be just as racist as the Republicans, but calling themselves progressives and Democrats and whatever they want to call themselves, so let's not get it twisted, because I don't care what you tell me, it's what you do.
Absolutely.
It's what you do. And they didn't do anything to even just correct it. And that's the sad thing about it,
And we gave them an opportunity. They contacted us for an opportunity to talk about it. We gave them an opportunity. They scheduled the interview to then cancel it 24 hours before to say, oh, he's not going to be able to make it this week. And I'm like, yo, you contacted us for the interview.
Well, because they knew we was gonna ask the questions, and then they might have known that we had the facts to the lies that they put on the flyer. right? So you know, and maybe they didn't. But my problem is not with them. My problem is with the other Black Democrats who saw it, and after they called after it was pointed out publicly, nobody said that it was wrong. That's my problem.
No, absolutely.
I mean, listen, it is what it is, man. But don't think that we're going to change. We're just going to get worse. We own less land. We have less property in Westchester. We own less homes. We own less Black businesses, and than we did back in the 60s and 70s. So, and the middle class is shrinking. But
is there still a middle class?
But we got a bunch of Negroes with no power.
Dave Chappelle said he didn't grow up in the hood, but he grew up. His parents did just enough for him to grow up poor in the white neighborhood. You know, we got a lot of that going on. So I leave y'all with that. I leave y'all with that. This has been Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show. We're on every Sunday, 6 to 8, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. This is episode 344. This is our 8-year anniversary month. Celebrating 8-year anniversary of the radio show and the website, and the 5-year anniversary of the newspaper. Deadline for the September issue is whatever that first Friday is in September to get your ads in. And of course, my book is available on Amazon. All Damon's books are available on Amazon. They're on the other side of the room, though. All Damon's books, just look his name up, is available on Amazon, or come out next week to Bougie Brews, a Black-owned coffee shop, and for our book brunch, starting at 1 p.m., 52 Main Street. With that, until next week, peace.
Peace.
Peace.